Today I want to start by sharing something most of you don't know about me. And I'm extremely scared of heights. Like, I can't handle a 6-foot ladder, let alone the thought of skydiving. And this got me thinking about how all the things that we don't know about each other. I think we all have things about us that no one knows about. The truth is, even if you have plenty of other people and other people know you, we can still live with the feeling that nobody really truly knows us. And here's what I mean. We all experience loneliness at times, whether you have close friends or acquaintances, a crowd to hang out with, or just a few people, a constant stream of communication on Discord, or a few texts here and there. There are all times when it's easy to feel like we don't really fit in and that no one really knows us. In fact, there's actual research about this. Just this week, I read a survey of a bunch of middle school and high school students. And on the day of this survey, 40% of them said that they felt lonely or disconnected from others most of the time. Think about your class at school and picture 10 people. At least 4 out of those 10 feel disconnected from other people most of the time. With that said, I want you to know 2 things are true. 1, everybody feels this way. Literally everybody. The popular person, they feel lonely and disconnected at times. The person with lots of friends, they do too. The dating couple, yep. And single people, them too. This isn't just a teenager thing. Every adult that you know would tell you that we experience it too. The feeling that we're disconnected or somehow separated from others is pretty common for most humans. And the second thing, we're all pretty sure that it's not supposed to feel that way, right? Isn't there something in us that feels like we're not supposed to feel disconnected from others? Something in us that tells us that we're meant to live not feeling alone or like an outsider? I can't explain it, but we feel it and we're created to live like this. Sometimes we can feel that way about God too. For some reason you feel or you have been taught that God is close to you and cares about your life. Others of you have been taught and feel like God is far away, distant, cold, or abstract, which isn't helpful when you're already feeling disconnected from others. The idea of Jesus sounds nice, but let's be honest, as incredible as it is to know Jesus died on the cross for my sins, it doesn't always feel helpful when I'm disconnected from everybody and alone on a Friday night. It doesn't always make us feel better when we want to be known and feel connected beyond a surface level of interactions with people. When you take another look beyond what you know about Jesus on the surface, there's more than meets the eye. Not to mention, a lot of people have ideas about who Jesus really is and why he came to earth. Those conversations came up a lot around this time of year because Easter is when we celebrate the moment and the meaning of Jesus' death and resurrection. But first, let's talk about the culture and community that Jesus lived in. Jesus lived in ancient Israel and grew up in a first century Jewish culture, which is just a fancy way of saying the people Jesus was around every day were very religious. A huge part of his life and their life was being called to the temple. And we're going to talk about that in a minute because it'll help us see something incredible about Jesus later. The temple was basically the core of Jews' religious life. However, religion was a part of all aspects of their life. What they ate, the rules they followed, how they dressed, and how they treated others. Because of that, the temple wasn't just a building you went to occasionally like a church. It was a hub for community and culture. Different parts of the temple were for different people. For example, if you weren't Jewish, you had to stay on the outside area. Women, even if they were Jewish, could only go in so far. Jewish men could go inside, but certain places were off limits if they weren't part of a religious order. Priests could go most places, but only on certain days. The whole thing was built so that people kept their distance from the center of the temple, a place called the Holy of Holies. It was sectioned off by curtains. In fact, the most important priests was only allowed to go behind the curtain 1 time per year. Why? Well, this area was a reminder of God's presence in heaven and on earth, and the curtains represent a separation between God and humans. It kept separate what was sacred. It was kind of like a large museum. There's some things people were allowed to touch and interact with, but most of the valuable stuff was behind glass. There's no way we could even get close to it. That's kind of how the temple worked. And the Holy of Holies was like the part of the museum that no one could even enter. That sense of disconnection that you and I have wasn't just a feelings for the Israelite people. It was a physical reality. People were separated from each other, and they were separated from the place that represented the presence of God. Many Jewish people hoped that Jesus would help the Jews conquer their Roman oppressors by leading an uprising and trying to gain power. Instead, the opposite happened. The Romans arrested Jesus, made up some reasons, took him through a shady court system and framed him and then sentenced him to death. Matthew, a close follower of Jesus, reported what happened next. They came to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. There they offered Jesus wine and drink mixed with gall, but after tasting it, he refused to drink it. When they had crucified him, they divided up his clothes by casting lots, and sitting down, they kept watch over there. Above his head, they placed a written charge against him. This is Jesus, the King of the Jews. Crucifixion is an ancient form of torture that the Roman Empire used not to just kill people, but to also scare everybody that was watching it happen. So they did it in a very public way. It was awful. Not only was Jesus brutally murdered, but the people did it and mocked him and insulted him in the process. He died, and check out what happened. And when Jesus cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit, and that moment the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. Remember that curtain? The one that separated God from everybody else? It was ripped apart, torn from top to bottom. How did God do that? I have no idea, but what I know for sure is that the message was clear. The days of separation were forever over. In one moment, Jesus changed everything. He made it perfectly clear what his life was all about up until that point. There's no separation when it comes to you and God. No curtain, no court, no wall, nothing. You may feel distant from your friends and family, but God is close. God is always there. You may feel like other people don't know you or want to be close to you, but God does. You may feel like you have to be good or well-behaved to be around God, but that's not true. That curtain was torn for you. You don't have to be separated or alone. Think of it this way. One of the things Jesus wishes you knew and never forgot is this: you can be close to God. You may feel disconnected from everyone else around you, but you never have to be disconnected from God. There's no curtain between you and God. Jesus came to show us God is there, close to you, no matter what. As for today, what does this idea of Jesus closing the gap of separation mean for us? For some of you, this idea may be totally new. You have never considered closeness with God something that you could experience. You have only ever experienced God as a distant, far away, unreachable God. Today, I want you to begin to reconsider what Jesus' life and death proved to be true for you. You can be confident that because of Jesus, you can be close with God. For those of us who are followers of Jesus, it's our job to treat other people like they can be connected to Jesus as well. Do you believe that Jesus' work was good enough to bring down a curtain for everyone or only certain people? In the same way that you feel disconnected, other people have times when they feel alone, unknown, or unloved as well. You and I have an incredible opportunity to let them know that they can be close to God.